Dun, 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 dun.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
You know, as a nation, we've come far on the journey towards a more perfect union. And today we've taken another step forward. This afternoon I signed into law the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act.
It is called the knockout game. Innocent people being assaulted and the attacks posted on the net.
A gang of teens attack innocent victims with the intention of knocking them out with one punch.
This is what usually goes down. It's a sucker punch to a complete stranger, and they take off.
You'll see the suspect creeping up on these two here as they walk down the sidewalk, and you'll see the suspect just sucker punch the man in the side of the head.
70-year-old James Gifford was a customer at the 7-Eleven just after 6 a.m. 5 or 6 black males in a group attacked Gifford using their hands and feet. Beyond the random nature, authorities have not been able to develop a motive, or if this was a robbery, or if this is similar to a past incident in May where a man was beaten to death as part of the knockout game.
Say there is a fight between a blue person and a green person over money. And if during the fight the blue person says, "I hate green people," that's not a hate crime. That's because color wasn't the cause of the fight.
According to police affidavits, for 4 months, members of 2 street gangs came together to assault, beat, and rob mainly white men. Affidavits indicate victims heard gang members saying, "This place smells like white people," adding things like, "I hate you bleeping white people." After the racial slurs, the attacks would begin. Victims suffered serious injuries. Some were even hospitalized. Police paperwork indicates the victims deserved the beatings because they had money and valuable items.
Well, for some, they said the worst thing that happened is I go back to jail.
Videos of the knockout game are popping up all over the internet. Innocent victims punched in the face for no reason. Deaths have been recorded in New York and New Jersey.
Is it all young black men targeting white people?
Generally speaking, it's black young men attacking white people. As a matter of fact, Bill, in some places they have another name for it. It's polar bear hunting. Polar bear because polar bears are white.
Cameras capture the vicious attack as a stranger punches a Long Island man out cold.
The victim, 23-year-old Kyle Rogers, remembers very little from that night, but he is positive that the brutal beating was just the latest in a string of knockout attacks. You can see a man running up from behind him and throwing a forceful punch. Rogers remembers nothing about the attack.
Do you think it was one of those knockout attacks?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah, for sure.
Now Rogers and his family are making a plea to find the man who did this, and they want anyone involved in any of the knockout attacks that flared up at the end of last year to understand that the pain and consequences are real.
I just want these kids to stop. I want them to understand that it's not a game. You know, that's the whole thing. I mean, it's called a game, and it's not a game.
I was going to play some football with my friends, and next thing you know, when I got there was like 7 black kids walking up. And they just said they were going to beat me up, and they started beating me up.
It is a malicious, twisted half-minute. For more than 30 seconds, 2 school-age students punch, chase, knee, slam, and beat another student as the third team records it, all while cackling and chanting and screaming. All 3, by the way, will face criminal charges for assault.
They just came up behind us and they just jumped on us and started beating people up.
Marty tried to help a friend who got hit in the back of the head.
Next thing you know, I had 10 kids around on me, kicking me in the head, hit me in the back of the head.
15-year-old Rachel Hobson pulled one of the attackers off her father. Then she too was knocked to the ground and got a bloody lip.
Boy was walking home from East High School and had just made it to his front porch when 2 teenage boys he'd noticed had been following him grabbed him. One of the boys splashed him with gasoline during a struggle and lit a lighter near his face, saying, "This is what you get." Those 2 suspects took off running and haven't been seen since.
Wounds on his face and hands. Frightening reminders for Seth Kaufman how he was brutally beaten Saturday night as a flash mob filled South Street, some trying to force their way into the pizza shop where he works.
40 to 50 punches I took 20 kicks.
As police moved the crowd west at 15th and South, a 27-year-old woman brutally attacked after being surrounded by scores of people.
The crime she committed was walking down the street and somebody just assaulted her for no reason at all.
Some of this, quite honestly, is all in the reporting.
I saw a whole bunch of black kids screaming, "I'm going to kill you, white boys."
Police say fighting started in response to an egg-throwing incident, but witnesses say others were swept up in the attack. This woman tells me her 14-year-old son was hit in the head.
If somebody did throw an egg at them, is it right for them? They should have called the police.
Police made 5 arrests. The oldest suspect is 25, but 2 are as young as 16.
The fact that all the people that were attacked were referred to as crackers and white boys or white MFers. I don't want to say that on television. You know, that's clearly a distinction that it's a racial incident.
The Iowa State Fair 2010. And for the African Americans, this was Beat Whitey Night.
Good evening, everyone. Governor Scott Walker is now ordering the state patrol to provide extra security at the fair.
This after reports of mob violence on the fairgrounds last night. According to witnesses, a large group of black teenagers rampaged through the Midway late Wednesday, with several fights breaking out. Police say the violence then continued outside the fairgrounds after closing.
Michelle, I asked the state fair police chief how many people were involved in the melee here on the grounds. And he looked at me, and in a word, he said hundreds.
Black males and females were out at the fair yelling out that it's Beat Whitey Night.
So was Phoebe Connolly a victim of the knockout game when she was assaulted in the district Friday night?
I don't know if it's the knockout game. I know that I got hit in the face. It was hard enough that it could have knocked me off my bike.
The assault happened somewhere in this block of 11th Street. The victim was pedaling uphill when she encountered a group of people standing in the street. One of them reached out and punched her.
And one of the kids who was in the group kind of cut in front of me and then over parallel crossing in the other way. And as we crossed, he reached out with his left hand and punched me in the face.
When she told a friend what happened to her, the friend said it sounded like the knockout game. So Connolly Googled it and found out another woman was assaulted in a similar fashion the night before.
When I called back, they said they got multiple calls on Friday night from other people who reported similar things.
Thursday night's assault, the victim was walking home when 8 to 10 teens, all on bikes, approached her from behind. Somebody smacked her in the head and rode away. We spoke to that victim by phone. She does not want to appear on camera. She's convinced, though, she was a victim of the knockout game and says the people playing it just have not gotten good enough at it to knock somebody out with one punch. Now, police are saying they are looking at them as simple assaults and point out that nobody was knocked out.
Young people charged in attacking a local man while playing the knockout game no longer face charges tonight, all because a key witness in the case failed to show up to court.
They were high-fiving and just, yay, real, like it's a, big game. They show their true colors,
Mayor Francis Slay happened to be the first person to find Quain right after the attack that night, and he is equally frustrated with the charges in this case being dropped. It happened after a 13-year-old female key witness for the prosecution failed to show up to testify in court.
I have no doubt that she didn't because she was intimidated. She was concerned for her own safety.
Mayor Slay also voiced his frustration in the reaction of the suspects when they were set free and sees a future concern from this.
When they get away with something like this and they're high-fiving each other, it emboldens them. They're going to be back out on the street and they're going to be trying to victimize someone else.
If you look at violent interracial crime, black-white crime, there are about 1 million acts of violent black-white crime any given year. And by violent, I mean rape, murder, robbery with aggravated manslaughter. About 90% of that involves a black perpetrator and 90% involves a white victim.
It's savagery. It's very difficult to watch those tapes. And as far as the media is concerned, if I can get to that, the reason most of the people watching us tonight are probably shocked by watching these videos and don't know anything about them is because, as you rightly said, they're getting precious little attention. No attention that we could find in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the network evening newscasts. And I think, Bill, I think there's a reason for this, and it's not a journalistic reason. This is a liberal, white liberal paternalistic decision. The white liberals in the media at places that aren't covering this are saying, you know what? We don't want to give any ammo to those white racist conservatives out there because they equate conservatism with racism anyway. So let's just make believe this isn't happening. How despicable, how disgraceful to make believe something that has spread from one city to another isn't a legitimate news story.
Police in Brooklyn are looking into a series of attacks on Jews. At least one attack caught on camera. Some of the assaults may be part of a disturbing game.
This is one of the groups that police would like to locate. Watch. A Jewish man in the hooded jacket gets punched. Here it is from another angle.
Clearly anti-Semitism.
This 64-year-old man says his 12-year-old son in Jewish clothing was attacked last Wednesday afternoon on President Street.
One full strength with his fist whacked him, punched him right on the side of the face, full force.
The child went to the ground as he heard the group of 5 or 6 teens yell out.
A hysterical, happy shout, "We got him!"
The 19-year-old Jewish teenager wearing the jacket was sucker punched.
He actually was holding an expensive camera, and they punched him and nothing was stolen.
Rabbi Yaakov Behrman believes the assaults are part of a disturbing game by some African-American teens.
And they're playing this game knock out the Jew, maybe, and they're going around the neighborhood punching Jews.
The incidents are being investigated by the police hate crimes task force.
Let's imagine that what we're seeing here is white people attacking, white kids attacking black people. That in cities like St. Louis and Washington and Milwaukee and Hoboken, New Jersey, and Syracuse, New York, and other cities, young white kids got together and said, let's start this game. You know, we'll call it the knockout. And they go around, and some black guy is coming home from work, and out of the blue, they just hit him in the face as hard as they can, and he goes down. And then their idiotic white friends giggle about it like a bunch of hyenas, and then they post it on the internet. That would obviously be a national news story because it's orchestrated racial violence. But this isn't.
It would also be a federal crime, okay, because it would be a bias crime.
Federal officials have arrested a 27-year-old from Katy, Texas, and charged him with a federal hate crime, Conrad Alvin Barrett. They say that in late November, he approached a 79-year-old African-American man, hit him so hard in the jaw that he fell to the ground, and then allegedly Barrett laughed as he said, quote, knockout. Again, this is being charged as a federal hate crime. The federal hate crime.
Clearly anti-Semitism.
The incidents are being investigated by the police hate crimes task force.
Beyond the random nature, authorities have not been able to develop a motive.
Criminal charges for assault.
Simple assaults. Young people charged in attacking a local man while playing the knockout game no longer face charges tonight.
Those 2 suspects took off running and haven't been seen since.
What about a minister who goes to the town hall meeting and quotes the Quran and the scripture and says homosexual activities are immoral, and he's attacked by a gay activist?
Well, the statute would not necessarily cover that.
Does that strike you as odd that one might be the crime and another one not?
We're talking about crimes that have a historic basis, groups who have been targeted for violence as a result of the color of their skin.
You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Their sexual orientation. That is what this statute is designed to cover.
A man waiting at a bus stop for his 6-year-old daughter to be dropped off from school had no idea that he would be the city's first reported victim. He was attacked, but not by a punch, by a faulty taser, and was able to protect himself with his own legal concealed carry .40 caliber pistol. 17-year-old Marvell Weaver was shot twice.